Sure, my name is Matt Curtis. I'm the founder of Smart City Policy Group, and years ago I was the deputy to a couple of mayors, and I work with local governments and stakeholders around the world on how to create local policy solutions. You know, we're here at the Skift Summit mostly because of my background. I'm here mostly because of my background working on short-term rental regulations. You know, it was probably just a few years ago that a mayor from a California city called me the godfather of short-term rental regulations. And I didn't know if I really embraced that title at the time. And now I'm starting to embrace it a little bit more because I started on the same day as Airbnb's first head of global government affairs. I started as the head of HomeAway's first head of global government affairs, and then later did that with Expedia after Expedia purchased HomeAway. And then I started my own business about 7 years ago now, Smart City Policy Group. And you know, the focus on short-term rental regulations is fascinating because it marries my love of travel with my background working with local government. And how do you create local rules that actually work and actually achieve compliance and address the best of new innovations and new industry? And that's where short-term rental comes together, and I have actually truly enjoyed it. So being here today has been a real gem. You know, in our talk earlier, some of the key questions and some of the stuff we talked about was similar to the things that I get asked every day, which is, can you create regulations that actually achieve compliance and are good for communities? So basically, can rules exist without being so overburdensome that they drive the activity underground? And the answer is yes, but it doesn't happen very often. So you have so many mayors and so many city leaders and frankly some state or country leaders that will talk about creating very, very significant restrictions. Oftentimes significant restrictions only result in driving that activity underground and therefore creating an even harder and more expensive enforcement process. We were also asked about the impacts on housing and housing affordability. Every housing study that I've been a part of, which has been a lot, has found that the short-term rental activity has not truly influenced the attainable, missing middle, workforce, or affordable housing markets. What it has done is it's wasted a lot of time where local leaders aren't talking about how to create real solutions for those issues. So whereas we've faced a global housing crisis in the world, we've spent so much time pointing fingers at who to blame rather than creating real solutions, and that's what we need to be talking about. And then finally, we were speaking too about what do short-term rental stakeholders need to do. And I think we used to say, get organized and be active down at City Hall. And I'm going to start adding something else to that, which is hire a professional that knows what they're doing. Because when you get an angry mob down at City Hall that's just banging pots and pans and saying, we want something the way we want it, it doesn't always reflect well with those local government leaders. So we have to be able to get activated in a way that's professional and a way that achieves our goals. I think 100% of the reason why we're facing these regulations that are popping up and have been popping up for 15 years now is about the tightening housing market in the world. So without creating new land use policies that allow for greater density and a greater mix of housing in a community, without doing partnerships to develop workforce and affordable housing, and without really encouraging through partnerships the building of what's called missing middle or attainable housing for young families or first-time home buyers. Because we weren't doing that, we've had this really, really constricted housing market, and the temperature just started to boil as we start looking back at 15 years ago to today, where people just wanted to get mad about something. And it became easy to get mad at short-term rentals. Now, I believe short-term rentals should have local rules that are placed around them so that people feel good and, you know, local community goals are achieved. But placing rules or restrictions or banning short-term rentals will not, nor has it created any more affordability in any town. So we haven't seen a greater level of affordable housing or workforce housing pop up because we are banning or restricting short-term rentals. You know, internationally, we always really liked Lisbon, and we liked Portugal's approach, but I know that's also changed recently. So Portugal's initial approach to short-term rentals was pretty darn smart, and frankly highlighted around the world. But that seems to be changing more recently. And frankly, the regulatory discussions will change in any community or country based on new elected officials and new staff and maybe even changes to the industry. In the United States, I've always really liked pointing to Galveston. Galveston, Texas is a huge vacation market, probably about 5,000 to 6,000 vacation rentals, short-term rentals in Galveston. And they had a very smart approach to community engagement, to industry engagement, and then creating through a thoughtful approach some rules that have gotten their registration of their 5,000 properties went from about 1,600, and they could never really kind of break that 1,600 number. Now they have almost 100% registration of all their short-term rentals. People are following the rules, and there's a way to track the information because they have a really good policy in place. Sure, you bet. I think to create a housing solution in the world and to create real solutions for all of our communities, for short-term rental operators, for everyone, I think all stakeholders have to get smarter about civics, about government, how government works, and what's needed in their communities. I feel like what we've seen is people have gotten less knowledgeable about how policy is created and how government operates. And at the same time, they've just become demanding with how they want the world to look. What we have to do is start approaching things where if we have a market in a vacation destination on the coast of England, or in vacation spots in Wales or Scotland or different corners of throughout Europe or around the world, they always need workforce housing. How are they providing housing for their workers and for the people that work in the tourism industry that drive that tourism economy? Well, to do that, I think we have to start thinking differently about how we're building that housing, how we're partnering with developers, how we're subsidizing the housing in a smart way that adds to the community rather than detracts from the community.